There are some truths that time can't hide, secrets that live quietly inside the heart, waiting for the right moment to be spoken. And for Keanu Reeves, the man the world knows as humble, kind, and unshakably calm, one secret from decades ago would soon change everything. Stay with me till the end, because this story reveals a side of Keanu Reeves the world has never truly seen. It was a rainy afternoon in Los Angeles. Inside a small, quiet home on the Hollywood Hills, Keanu Reeves sat alone by the window, holding an old photograph. He wasn't in front of flashing cameras or crowds of fans. He wasn't filming another blockbuster movie. He was simply a man, tired, thoughtful, and lost in memories. The photo he held wasn't just any picture. It showed a woman smiling, her brown hair glowing in the sunlight. That woman was Sandra Bullock. Most people knew them as co-stars from Speed, the film that made them both household names in the 1990s. But what few people realized, what Keanu had kept buried deep within, was that behind the smiles, interviews, and red carpets, there had been something more. That day, sitting alone, Keanu whispered softly, "I've always been honest with the world, except about you." He had kept this secret for 30 years. A love that had never been spoken aloud. A connection that had changed his life but also left him with a lifelong ache, the ache of what if. Just then, the silence of his room was broken by the ringing of a phone. On the other end was his longtime agent, Marcus. "Keanu, CNN wants an exclusive interview," Marcus said, sounding tense. "They say they have information about your past." "Personal information. Something to do with Sandra." Keanu froze. He had lived through loss, fame, and pain, but nothing prepared him for this. "Information?" he asked quietly. "What kind of information? Photos? Maybe even witness accounts from Speed. They're saying it's about the great love you denied." For a moment, the air felt heavy. Keanu looked again at the photograph, tracing his finger gently over Sandra's smiling face. He had always known this day might come, but he never imagined it would come now, when he was finally at peace with his solitude. After a long silence, he said softly, "Accept the interview." Marcus hesitated. "Are you sure? This could open old wounds for both of you." Keanu sighed. "It's time." The day of the interview came faster than Keanu expected. He woke up early, long before the sun touched the city. The sky was gray, and the world felt strangely quiet, the kind of quiet that comes before something life-changing. He looked at himself in the mirror, the same calm face the world loved, but behind his eyes was a storm that never stopped. When Keanu arrived at the CNN studio, he greeted every person by name, the camera operators, the sound crew, even the young assistants setting up the lights. He smiled softly, but deep inside his heart raced like it hadn't in years. Waiting for him was Vanessa Morrison, the interviewer known across Hollywood for her sharp tongue and even sharper questions. She was polite, but her eyes carried the hunger of someone about to uncover a secret. "Thank you for joining us, Mr. Reeves," she said as the cameras began to roll. Keanu gave a small nod. "It's my pleasure." The lights glared. The red recording sign blinked. And just like that, the world's kindest man was sitting under the spotlight, about to face the truth he had buried for 3 decades. Vanessa didn't waste any time. "Keanu," she began, her voice smooth but cold, "you've always been known for your generosity, your humility. But rumors say there's something you've hidden, a woman, someone special from your past." "Is that true?" Keanu hesitated. He had prepared for this moment, but now the words refused to come out. He took a deep breath, feeling his pulse in his throat. "I've been blessed to work with many wonderful people," he said carefully. Vanessa leaned forward. "Sandra Bullock," she interrupted, sliding a photograph across the table. Keanu froze. It was the photograph, the same one he had hidden away in his drawer for years. Sandra laughing in his arms, her eyes glowing with pure joy. A moment no one was ever supposed to see. "Tell me," Vanessa pressed. "Was this just friendship?" Keanu's lips trembled. His eyes softened, pain, nostalgia, love, all mixing together. "I care about her deeply," he said quietly. Always have. But Vanessa wasn't done. She pulled out more photos, ones from behind the scenes of Speed, and even a few from years later. Crew members had spoken. People remembered how they looked at each other, how they disappeared together after the rap party. "You were in love, weren't you?" Vanessa asked, her voice now cutting through the silence. Keanu's hands shook slightly. He took another deep breath, and then softly he said, "Yes." For a few seconds, there was no sound. No one moved. The crew behind the cameras stopped breathing. Keanu looked down at his hands and whispered, "I was in love with her. And I was afraid." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "Afraid of what?" He smiled sadly. "Of losing her. Of losing the only real friendship I'd ever had. So I chose silence. And I've lived with that choice ever since." Vanessa leaned back in her chair, sensing she had cracked something open, a heart that had been locked for 30 years. What she didn't realize was that she hadn't just uncovered a headline. She had opened a wound, one that had never truly healed. The studio lights burned bright, but the air felt cold. Keanu Reeves sat still, his hands trembling slightly as Vanessa Morrison stared at him, waiting for more. He had just admitted his love, something the world had never heard before. For a moment, the silence was so deep that everyone could hear the sound of the cameras humming. Vanessa leaned closer. "Then why didn't you tell her?" she asked softly, though her eyes still searched for the headline moment. Keanu exhaled slowly. Because he was tired of hiding behind perfect answers. He looked up, his dark eyes filled with truth. "I didn't tell her because I was scared," he said, his voice calm but fragile. "Back then we were young. Speed had just changed our lives. I didn't want to ruin something pure. I told myself friendship was safer than love. But all it did was make both of us lonely." Vanessa paused. This wasn't the confession she expected. She wanted drama, but what she found was something deeper. Keanu continued, his voice gentle but steady. "You know, Vanessa, people think fame makes you brave, but it doesn't. It makes you careful, afraid to lose what you've built. I thought silence would protect her, and me, but silence only made the pain worse." He glanced down at the photograph again. "I watched her build a life, win awards, bring joy to millions. Every time I saw her smile on screen, I felt proud. But also," he swallowed hard, "I felt the weight of what I didn't say." Vanessa tried to press further. "So you're saying you loved her all these years?" Keanu nodded slowly. "I never stopped. There it was, a truth 30 years in the making. And suddenly the story wasn't about Hollywood anymore. It was about two human beings who had simply been afraid to love at the right time. Vanessa, for once, had no words. Her usual sharpness softened as she realized what she had uncovered wasn't a scandal. It was heartbreak. Keanu took a breath and looked directly into the camera. "I know she might be watching," he said quietly. "And if she is, I just want her to know I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't brave when it mattered. You deserved more than silence." Tears began to roll down his cheeks, but he didn't hide them. He wasn't ashamed anymore. This wasn't a performance. This was truth. The crew around them stood frozen. Some were holding back tears. Even Vanessa, the hard-hitting journalist, looked shaken. Keanu wiped his eyes and gave a small, peaceful smile. "You see," he said softly, "when you spend your life pretending to be strong, you forget that being honest is the only real strength. And in that moment, everyone watching, both in the studio and around the world, could feel that this wasn't an actor speaking. It was a man finally letting go of 3 decades of regret. The room was completely still. For a long time, nobody spoke. Not the director, not the cameramen, not even Vanessa Morrison, Keanu Reeves. The man known for his calm humility and mysterious silence had finally spoken the truth he'd carried for half a lifetime. And what came next would move millions of people watching around the world. Vanessa took a slow breath, trying to regain her professional tone. "Keanu," she said quietly, "do you think Sandra still feels the same way?" Keanu smiled faintly, looking down as though the answer might be written in his palms. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know this, love doesn't disappear. It just changes its shape." Sometimes it hides behind friendship. Sometimes it lives quietly inside you, but it never really goes away. The words hung in the air like a prayer. Even the studio lights seemed softer now. Keanu leaned back in his chair, calmer than before. It was as if years of weight had finally been lifted from his heart. Then, in a voice almost like a whisper, he said something that no one expected. "What most people don't know," he began, "is that Sandra and I never truly stopped talking." Vanessa blinked in surprise. "You mean, you're still in touch?" Keanu nodded, a small smile crossing his lips. "Every year on the anniversary of Speed, I get a message. Just 2 words, happy anniversary. And I always reply, the best summer of my life." He laughed softly, wiping a tear from his cheek. "That's been our quiet little tradition for nearly 30 years. No one ever knew. Not our friends, not our teams. Just us." For a moment, the tough journalist forgot her job. Her eyes softened as she realized she wasn't interviewing a celebrity anymore. She was witnessing a love story that had survived time, fame, and silence. Keanu's voice grew tender. "When she won her Oscar, she called me at 3 a.m. She was crying and laughing at the same time. She said, 'I wish you were here to celebrate with me.'" He paused, his voice breaking slightly. "And all I said was, 'I'm proud of you, Sandy.' That's what I always say. Because when you love someone, truly love them, their happiness matters more than your own. There was nothing left to reveal, no secrets left to expose." But what Keanu did next would turn that interview into one of the most unforgettable moments in television history. He reached into his old leather jacket and pulled out a small, silver flip phone, scratched, worn, but still working. "This phone," he said gently, "has only one number saved in it. I've kept it for 15 years. It's hers." The camera zoomed in, and viewers around the world could see one name on the dim screen: Sandra. He closed the phone carefully and smiled. "I guess some things you never let go of. And maybe you shouldn't." Vanessa didn't interrupt. She couldn't. There were tears in her eyes too now, real ones. She looked at Keanu with a softness that only truth could create. "Do you think you'll tell her all this?" she asked. Keanu looked into the camera, his expression calm and sincere. "I just did," he said. That night, as the interview aired, people across the world fell silent. Comments poured in online. Fans cried. News anchors called it the most honest interview in Hollywood history. And somewhere across Los Angeles, Sandra Bullock sat alone, watching every word. When Keanu said, "I never stopped loving her," she covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Her phone vibrated. It was an old message thread. Only 2 words appeared. "The best summer of my life." For a long time, she stared at it. Then, with trembling fingers, she typed a reply. "Happy anniversary," and hit send. The next morning, the world woke up with a renewed sense of tenderness. It wasn't just a celebrity story anymore. It was a reminder of something deeper. That sometimes love doesn't need to end with marriage or fame or grand gestures. Sometimes it just lives quietly and in memories, in forgiveness, and in the courage to finally tell the truth. In his soft-spoken way, Keanu Reeves had taught millions of people one powerful lesson: that it's never too late to be honest. That love, even when silent, never truly disappears. And that sometimes the bravest thing we can ever do is speak the truth our hearts have been whispering all along.